Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Average Bros Podcast.
That's right, the very first one on Jeff Hardbody, baby. And
Your boy Diamond Steve. Today we're going to take you down a little trip memory lane. We are not experts, we are not professionals, we are not anything when it comes to the wrestling business. We are just what you could call hardcore fans.
I don't know, smart marks, does that count?
Yeah, we're definitely more smart marks than anything else. But we're going to take you down our journey. We're going to talk about what we want to talk about for today. We're going to talk about the past, the present, the future, and what we think of the wrestling business as a whole. Hardbody, hit him with it.
And everything in between. We're going to take a little nostalgia trip today. And I think a great place to start is the 1992 Royal Rumble. Tell me about it, Steve.
92 Royal Rumble. You're talking about the one with Flair, right?
That's right.
Flair. Sid.
Oh, Sid
Hogan.
Justice. Yes.
Oh, so many good names in that Rumble. So many good names. But the only one you care about is the Nature Boy, Ric Flair.
To be the man, you've got to beat
the
man. That's right. An iconic promo. But before we get to the Royal Rumble match itself on that pay-per-view, a match that really stood out to me at the time is Piper and the Mountie. I love it. I know I won't shut up about this match.
Well, then talk about it.
Well, I'm telling you, Piper was old, but he still looked okay. He could work a little bit. And I hated the Mountie with his stupid outfit and the shock stick. He's a heel. He was doing his job, and I loved seeing him get put to sleep.
But does it really work when you look at it nowadays, Piper versus the Mountie? Do you not think of a better character that probably that would make more sense against the Mountie than Piper?
Well,
or do you think it was just WWE's way of making things right and getting it to where they wanted it to be for Mania?
I think the WWE was getting a couple things right. You were able to give Piper the attaboy and put the IC strap on him. And we were able to get that WrestleMania match with Brett that I'm sure we'll get to here a little bit later.
Yes. But do you really think it's an attaboy for someone like Piper to get given the IC title? Wouldn't it be more of an attaboy to get the world title?
I don't think he ever needed the world title. I think Piper really needed that babyface run. And then to put the belt on him, it really worked. It really resonated with me as a child, and it resonates with me now.
I'll give you that. So what else do you think about when you think about the Royal Rumble 92 Royal Rumble?
The Bushwhackers and the Beverly Brothers.
Yes, that is the highlight of the 92 Rumble, ladies and gentlemen. The Bushwhackers versus the Beverly Brothers. Who here listening could even remember the Beverly Brothers if you haven't gone back and watched old wrestling?
I mean, everybody should know the Bushwhackers.
I'm not talking about the Bushwhackers. I'm talking about the Beverly Brothers.
Yeah, but the Bushwhackers and the Beverly Brothers was like the feud in 1992 for 7-year-old me. They were over here licking little kids' heads and using the battering ram finish, like all-time terrible finish, and I loved every second of it.
All-time terrible finish. I mean, if you think about it, in the 90s and 80s, there was a lot of terrible finishes.
Oh my goodness, I'm sure we'll get to that here in a minute. The atomic leg drop, the warrior splash, all kinds of terrible ones.
When I think of finishers in the late 80s, early 90s that stood out to me, they're all submissions. Think about it.
The best ones are submissions.
That's what I mean. You don't think about it. I mean, everyone knows Hogan's leg drop. Everyone knows Warrior's splash, even though everyone thinks that it's the atomic power slam or the over-the-head power slam, but really it's the splash.
Yeah.
That's the finish. And it doesn't look like it hurts at all.
No, it's terrible. Or Dusty's bionic elbow. I mean, the list goes. And I love Dusty. That elbow's that's hot garbage.
So let's talk a little bit more about the Rumble. Let's talk about our boy Flair.
Oh, coming in at number 3.
Coming in at number 3 and going the distance, winning the WWF Championship, or WWE Championship, whichever one you want to call it. I'm going to call it the WWF Championship because WWE is worse than ISIS.
It's literally worse than Osama bin Laden.
Oh, but besides the fact, we're talking about classic WWF here. We are talking about the real world's champion, Ric Flair, winning the WWF Championship in the Royal Rumble, which I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, is the first time that ever happened when the championship was put up during the Royal Rumble, correct?
Yes, the earlier ones. I want to say the first one, Hacksaw Jim Duggan won just for bragging rights.
Honestly, if I'm not mistaken, you can correct me if I'm wrong here too. The 93 Rumble was the first Rumble where winning the Rumble got you a world title shot because all the other ones were just bragging rights. None of them actually got you a title shot. People seem to get this confused because you saw Warrior win the '90 Rumble and then go and face Hogan for the world championship. But actually, the Rumble didn't get him his title shot. Mike Tunney, or whoever the on-face president of WWF was at the time, made that call. There wasn't if you win this Rumble, you're getting the world title shot. That's not how it worked back then.
And of course, Mike Tunney was kayfabe, of course. Now that Warrior Hogan match, is that a match you remember watching, or do you just remember hearing about it?
I remember hearing about it.
Yeah, I don't ever remember watching it. I always knew that it happened.
I've watched it since, but I have not watched it. Well, I mean, come on. You had to have watched it. Even if you didn't watch it like in its entirety or watch it like for itself, you've watched it some way, shape, or form.
Oh, definitely.
I mean, big shout out to OSW. I'm a big fan. I've watched it there, honestly. I didn't watch it. I didn't turn on WrestleMania 6 on the network to watch Hogan versus Ultimate Warrior. I already knew both these guys would get gassed in 10 minutes. It's not going to be a match I want to watch. Now, the atmosphere, the electricity probably, stellar probably in the 90s. But I cannot get behind it. I do not want to watch that match. It's not Hogan versus Rock at 18 that I will go back and watch every so often.
So you're saying Warrior and Hogan wasn't Steamboat and Savage?
Yeah, okay, perfect example. Steamboat and Savage is a match, sir. That is there's not enough good things I can say about Steamboat versus Savage. They are telling a story. You know who clearly the heel and the face is. They are doing anything they can to beat each other to the ground. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Savage hits the elbow and Steamboat still kicks out. Steamboat wins that match.
Yes, I do believe that's correct. I haven't watched that match in a month of Sundays.
Long time.
And part of the reason for that is Ricky Steamboat's boring. Great worker, looks good,
Hot take.
but he's boring.
Hot take, ladies and gentlemen.
He's
Hardbody thinks that Ricky Steamboat is boring.
Yeah.
But in all honesty, if you go back and watch him critically, and again, you got to watch a lot of these things, not with your eye blinders on from when you were 7 years old and you saw this guy come out with a dragon.
Oh, I loved it.
Or you saw him come out and like spitting fire off the stick, you know? We have to look at this critically. Because even there's some people that you can sit here and say you loved as a kid, but when you go back and watch their matches now, it's garbage.
Like the Bushwhackers
Yes.
that we talked about
The Bushwhackers.
earlier. Definitely loved him early. But let's get back to this Royal Rumble match. This is Ric Flair at his best on the mic in the pre-match promo, and at his best in the ring. I mean, there's Flair flops everywhere. He's on his hands and knees begging people not to hit him. He's cheating. He's the dirtiest player in the game.
But honestly, how much cheating did he actually do in that match? Besides, like, running up behind somebody who's eliminating someone else and eliminating them. Is that really cheating in the Rumble, or is that smart?
It's clearly heel
It's
maneuvering.
clearly heel maneuvering, but I have been watching a lot of Rumbles lately. Just watching them just to watch them go to sleep because they're boring and WWE is boring. If it's not AEW, it's not on my television.
Oh, I'm sure we'll get to AEW.
But I will sit here and say this, that the Rumble, face and heel, man, I mean, don't get me wrong, you have face and heels in there. You have heels helping each other, but really it doesn't make sense anymore. When you're sitting there, let's say the Hard Body and Diamond Steve are two heels.
That's right.
And we're sitting there beating the crap out of the face, Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Not that would ever happen.
I'm about to get pushed out. Even though we're heels and we've been working together the entire time in the match, would you really help me not get pushed out of the match?
I'm going to push you out because I'm a heel.
Exactly. But you sit here and watch these dudes, and they sit here and help each other, and they prolong the match and everything else. And I get it that you have to make the match last longer. You have to make it seem like it's going to be a long time. You can't just have a dude throwing a dude over every 5 seconds. But when you do it, it's perfect. Look at it. 2008. 2010. The Messiah of Friday night.
Okay.
The not the Messiah, but the straight edge leader, the straight edge punk, when CM Punk was the straight edge society. He sat there for the first like 5 minutes of that match, just tossing everyone out, and he cut a promo in between everyone, and you hated him for it. You hated him because he was heel.
Yeah, because you're supposed to. It works.
I think Austin in 98, 97 did the same exact thing. He sat there and tossed people left. He was the only one left in the ring, and then Hitman's music hit. And you knew that, okay, well, he's not going to throw this guy out. My problem with the CM Punk one is the Great Khali's music hit. and all of a sudden he gets stopped. I don't know if anyone's ever watched Great Khali wrestle. It's chop chop. I can't breathe anymore. I'm gonna stand in the corner. Chop chop. Maybe a Pugami Death Claw hand or whatever the hell he called it.
The Von Erich Iron Claw.
Well, we didn't call it that.
That's what it is. Khali's terrible. He's got a great chin. That's about the only thing he's got going for him. But while we're talking about battle royals, I've always thought battle royals were hard matches to pull off, especially when you have a 30-man battle royal. You've got 8, 9, 10, 11 guys in the ring at one time. It's just a big clusterfuck.
I mean, it's a big clusterfuck indeed. And do you think that WWE was the smarter of the territories or the companies at the time, because the territories were pretty much already dead by the time he did the first Royal Rumble,
Yeah.
to do that whole every 60 seconds a new guy comes in instead of starting with 30 dudes in the ring, which is just always a cluster. We all remember the World War III match from WCW.
Terrible.
You can't really start watching that match until at least they had like 60 dudes in 3 different rings. Until they were in the last ring is when you actually started caring and watching.
Yeah,
that's the reason why I think the Rumble works a little bit better for that atmosphere, for that type of match, because you got 2 dudes in the ring starting off and then one coming in every 60 minutes or 60 seconds afterwards.
To be fair, that's a kayfabe 60 seconds.
Yes, to be real fair, that is kayfabe to the power of 10.
I think they got their stopwatch from Goku and Frieza. It's the longest 5 minutes in the history of television.
It really is. Because sometimes you sit there and you'll watch the Rumble, and you can see it in this 92 Rumble too. It's Flair and Piper. They're in the ring for at least a good 3 minutes without someone coming in. And I'm pretty sure 3 people should have came in the ring by then. But they're selling it. They're making you wonder if Piper's going to take it. I do believe Piper is part of the Final 4.
It's Piper, Sid, Hogan and Flair.
And Flair gets Piper out.
Mm-hmm.
And then Sid throws Hogan out.
Yeah.
And then if you talk about it, if we can sit here and talk about it, Hogan pulls Sid out.
Because
I've never been a fan of that. What do you want to say, storyline? Or I've never been a fan of someone out of the Rumble pulling someone else out of the Rumble. Like someone's already been thrown off, and then they pull someone out of the Rumble, and they count it. You know what I mean? Like Sid, in my personal opinion, should have been allowed to go back in, seeing how Hogan's already tossed out of the match, and him pulling him like this. Mm-hmm. And then Flair coming from behind and tossing Sid out. I feel like the refs probably should have followed the rules a little bit.
The rules, Steve!
Yeah, well.
What are the rules? I agree. I mean, it's Hogan going total heel, and I didn't feel that way then. I was more shocked that Flair won, and then I got stoked for the Sid and the Hogan match afterwards. But as an adult watching that Royal Rumble, like, that's disgusting. Boo Hogan out of the building. Get off of it.
But it's not the only time that's happened. You know what I mean? Watch a lot of them. Watch, there's at least 1 or 2 spots like that in almost every Rumble. Almost every Rumble. Almost.
I mean, I agree. I agree. What makes it stand out to me is that it's Hogan. Hogan's the supposed to be the white bread baby face, the All-American.
Hogan's a whiny bitch. Let's look at his career and talk about whiny bitchism, okay?
Oh, hot take.
Let's sit here and talk about this for a second. All right, well, you have the 90 Rumble where he grabs the belt and literally stands there acting like he's not going to hand it to Warrior, and then finally hands it to Warrior, which, by the way, wasn't supposed to happen. Mm-hmm. World War III. Couldn't tell you the exact year. I'm pretty sure it was like 95, 96, 95, 94 when Savage won.
Yeah.
And Hogan was in the ring bitching the entire time. WrestleMania 4 when Savage won the title in the tournament? Or is that 5? It's 4? No, it's 4 because 5 was the Mega Powers Explode.
Great storyline,
yeah.
By the way.
So, but WrestleMania 4 when Savage wins, Hogan's in there hot dogging the whole time. He's in there cheering like you would have thought he just won World War II.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the problem. Every time someone else, and Hogan's around and someone else wins the big one, he makes it about him. And this isn't an unknown fact.
Let's talk about Hogan for a second here. Is Hogan wrestling?
Ooh. Is he wrestling? I could say that he's probably one of the faces of wrestling. I don't know if he is wrestling. Do you really think he is wrestling? Now, the question you're asking, do you think he's wrestling today? Where it's all about money. It's not about a story anymore. It's all about just the money that you're building with the 2 people that are fighting.
I've got another hot take. Hulk Hogan today is bigger than any wrestler in wrestling. That should tell you something.
Is it because of the nostalgia aspect? Because it's not his wrestling ability.
No, it's never been his wrestling ability.
It's his character.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, he's also destroyed companies.
WCW destroyed themselves. I mean, Hogan didn't help.
I'm not talking about just WCW.
You think he destroyed WWE with a lethal dose of poison?
No, I don't think he destroyed WWE. Obviously, he didn't destroy WWE. WWE is still around, making my head hurt every time I watch one of their bookings.
Yeah, not that I wish they were destroyed.
Yeah, I wish they were gone, and I wish I can't say enough bad things about the bookings in the last 10 years of watching.
Well, and let's be fair. I wish WWE had a good product. I don't wish for WWE to be gone. I wish they had a better product.
No, because if there's one thing that this whole, before AEW, let's be honest here, no one's watching ROH in the United States. No one's watching ROH, New Japan, steadily. Let's put it like this, steadily. I don't know about you, but I can't find ROH on my television. Now, do I look at highlights on the internet? Yes. But am I giving them views or, ratings when they're on, some TV show or channel being watched? Absolutely not. Now, do I think the one thing that we can all agree on that came from WCW closing the doors is the simple fact that WWE had a monopoly on the television market when it came to wrestling?
Absolutely. They were always the biggest company because WCW was the stepsister. I watched WCW, but I always played second fiddle up until the Monday Night Wars. And I think that's a good segue to another nostalgia topic. Did you watch WCW pre-Monday Night Wars?
I did watch WCW pre-Monday Night Wars. I watched WCW especially because I don't believe the Monday Night Wars started till '96 when Hogan turned heel. Nitro was not beating them until that happened. And I don't really consider the war starting until that first shot was taken. You could say Luger coming out of that mall episode. No one gives a shit about Luger. WWE definitely didn't give a shit about Luger. They dropped the ball on Luger.
Oh, no, Luger dropped the ball on Luger.
I mean, Luger, you can sit here and blame it on Luger, but Luger was just following orders and taking instructions. They were right on this bus for all year or all summer, and he did that.
You can't tell me you weren't in your living room and jumping up and down when you saw Luger slam Yoko on the USS Enterprise or whatever it was.
I wasn't jumping up and down, but I was happy.
I was jumping up and down. I marked all the way out. I was a Luger guy.
I was not a Luger guy. Even as a child, I was like, why is Bret Hart not the champion?
Because Bret Hart, here's another hot take, is a black hole of charisma.
Okay, but he may be a black hole of charisma, but he can work in the ring.
Absolutely.
He can tell a story. If there's one thing you can see here and you can't deny, it's the simple fact that Bret Hart is one of the best you ever watched in the ring. And even though, if you ask me, he is the founder of this 5-move of death thing that you want to talk about, because that's exactly what Bret did. He ran in the ropes, hit the front of his chest, Russian leg sweeper, belly to back suplex, off Bret's rope with the elbow drop.
The most deadly rope.
Yes. The sharpshooter. And then even when he's heel, you can sit here and call his matches verbatim. The only thing he did, he added 2 things: a back rake and then the figure 4 on the post when he would sit there on the outside making the guy.
Yeah, to soften up the leg.
Yeah. So it's debatable. Yes, he couldn't talk. He couldn't talk. We'll give you that. He's not the greatest promo ever. But Bret Hart to Lex Luger, who would you rather watch in the ring?
Oh, definitely Bret. When I think of Bret and Owen at WrestleMania, just putting a clinic on.
Oh, man, when I think of Bret and Owen at WrestleMania 10, but also when you sit back and you actually look at the shit he was handed as champion.
Mm-hmm.
The Brooklyn Brawler, the 1-2-3 Kid, Bastion Booger, the Asian dude with all the Chinese letters.
Hakushi.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Lawler. You know what I'm saying? All these dudes that he was handed in the 90s, and then he still made it work.
To be fair, that Lawler feud was pretty good.
Really?
I really liked it. I guess it's being from the Mid-South. I was familiar that USWA existed.
Okay.
I had never watched it.
I mean, I hated Lawler, so he was doing his job.
Yeah, I mean, and they do the King of the Ring thing, and Lawler shows up, and I'm the real king, and they have the feud. I think it works. I mean, it was better.
Do you think it lasted too long, though? Because that King of the Ring was in, 92.
Mm-hmm.
And then they still were fighting in, 93. They were still feuding. in
But
94.
let's look at that company in 93 and 94. You've got Men on a Mission, Mo and Mabel.
Whoa,
You've got-
whoa, whoa. Let's not get on my boys. Men on a mission. Yo, then you had the one and only Ivan Yankum. That was like 94, 95.
Isaac Yankum, DDS.
Oh,
Uh,
he was the king's dentist, by
yeah,
the way.
yeah, he definitely reinvented himself. And to Kane, Glenn Jacobs really worked. And when he was fake Diesel, it could have been worse. As bad as the fake Diesel and fake Razor.
Honestly,
storyline
if
was.
you would have had him come out not calling himself Diesel, but almost wearing the same exact thing as Diesel and doing all of Diesel's moves, no one would have cared, because he worked better than Kevin Nash. He was faster.
Oh yeah,
He
I agree.
moved better.
Mhm.
And nothing against Kevin Nash. I'm a Kevin Nash mark. I grew up watching Kevin Nash. I was a big Diesel mark when I was a kid. Nowadays, when I watch his stuff, I'm like, it's a little slow for me.
Yeah.
But then again, nowadays being older, I'm also like, well, these guys are like 7'2", 6'8", things like that, and obviously they can't work as fast as like a Bret Hart who's at what, like 5'11", 5'10".
To be fair, these are kayfabe heights. It's
I
like
get
the
it.
7'12" Kevin Nash.
No, I think
All
he's
right,
only
guys.
gotten billed at like 7'1".
I think he's 6'10" for real.
Yeah, he's pretty tall.
Yeah.
I mean, he's taller than me. He's taller than you.
Yeah.
He's taller than 90, probably what 85% of America, I would say.
I'm sure. I don't.
When you
have
walk
to
into
do
a room and
this.
look up, there's Kevin Nash. You're looking up at him while you're talking to him. And I hate
Absolutely.
doing that to people. I
Me
hate
too.
looking up at people. I hate that. It's one of my down qualities when I'm dating. I can't look up at the girl. She's got to be looking up at me.
There's a hot take from Diamond
Yeah,
Steve.
Diamond
be
Steve,
tolerated.
you're too tall. Can't have it. All right.
Sorry, ladies.
Let's go back to this though. We talked about 92.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to skip the new gen. We're not going to talk about 93, 94, 95. That's
Okay.
just we're not even going to bring up that subject cuz that's like an hour-long subject alone on
Yeah,
how bad
absolutely.
that company was. And not even just WWE, WCW was doing the same thing and no one wants to talk about it. You had RoboCop coming out and saving Sting. You had a lot of promotional stuff going on in WCW that just didn't make sense.
To be fair, RoboCop was the OVA baby. I don't know what Dusty and Kevin were thinking.
Oh, they were thinking about trying to, promote RoboCop and thought it would bring money to the WCW. Even though RoboCop was an 80s movie that I watched when I was like 8. You know what I'm saying? Like, it
Yeah,
doesn't make
definitely.
sense.
Anyway,
Okay, we're going to talk about 96. We're going to talk about both companies real fast, and then we're
Sure.
going to jump a little bit ahead of time, and then we're going to talk about our journey back and forth on why we stopped watching and then we started watching again.
I have lots to talk about in that topic.
So, let's go. 96.
Mhm.
You got the rise of the Ringmaster.
Steve Austin.
Steve Austin.
Mhm.
You slowly start seeing his turn, not really at 96, but you see what you have not seen in a long time in WWE besides besides Bret Hart, because we can get to Shawn Michaels in a minute. I lost my smile. Fuck you. You just didn't want to carry the belt. Go get your drug problem worked out. Shawn, we love you though, but go get your drug problem worked out.
I don't love Sean.
Oh, he's a liar. But no, all right. So 96. Which is the biggest moment in 96 for professional wrestling? And I know this is a dumb question. We
Yeah,
already
that's
know
a
the
that's a
answer.
really dumb
But
question.
who's the third man?
It's got to be Luger.
It's got to be Sting.
Are they smart enough for it to be Hogan?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Is Hogan smart enough for it to be Hogan?
Yes. Clearly,
Yes.
the answer was
All right.
yes.
So 96. Oh, we're 11. We're 11. 11 years old. Little Hulkamaniacs. I know I was a Hulkamaniac.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you were a Hulkamaniac. I may have been on the downward trend of being a Hulkamaniac, but watching Bash at the Beach,
Mm-hmm.
watching Hogan walking out to the ring, there is no chance in Little Steve's mind that he is about to drop the leg on Macho Man Randy Savage and join the Outsiders.
There's not, but a lot of people don't talk about this. Heenan really dropped the ball when Hogan was walking out because all the announcers, Shivani and all, they were like, Hogan's coming to save WCW. And Heenan says, like an idiot, are we sure he's here to help us? Or something like that. And then,
Are you really positive? Because I'm pretty sure if you roll that back, Heenan says, go get him, Hulkster. Or is that someone else?
that's definitely someone else. Chat, I'm going to need you guys to get in the comments and correct Diamond Steve here.
I mean, you could be right. I could be wrong. But I'd have to rewatch it again. Because you're probably right. I thought that moment in time was probably one of the smartest things I've seen in wrestling.
I mean, look at the heat that Angle, God, there's fans legit throwing trash in the ring.
Oh, and I was ecstatic. Ecstatic. Rewatching it now, let me put it like this. Rewatching it now, as a child, I was like one of those guys. Like, I threw my Coke at the TV stand.
I'm foaming at
At
the
the
mouth.
TV.
Yeah.
I was livid. I remember coming home from my friend's house looking at my dad and being like, Hogan turned bad guy. Because, back then when we were kids, we didn't say heel, we didn't say face. We weren't smart. And I'm not saying we're the smartest there is, but we could sit here and pretty much talk about, like, what is going to happen or not happen. And then be surprised when something dumb happens, a.k.a. WWE writing.
Yeah.
But you have all these different feelings. And it's amazing what wrestling can do when it comes to your feelings. Like, how did you feel the next day going to school when Hogan turned heel?
Well, the Hogan heel turn and the whole initial NWO storyline is everything that's right about wrestling. From the, you know who I am, but you don't know why I'm here, to Kevin Nash powerbombing Bischoff through the table, to Hogan coming out and dropping the big line. I got goosebumps just thinking about it. It's wrestling done right at every turn.
The big man and the medium-sized man and our third partner, man, will see you at Bash at the Beach, man. Who is it? You already had Sting, Luger, and Macho in the match. Mm-hmm. No one in their right mind were like, it's Hogan. No one, I'm sorry, I doubt anyone can sit here and honestly say that they were like, Hogan, bruh, he's going heel, bruh. I never would have thought it. Never would have thought Hogan. No. So you sit there and you're looking at all three of the guys in the matches and you're like, either A, one of these dudes is turning heel, or you start playing the who's gonna do it game. So you start going down the obvious heels. So as your obvious heels, who are you thinking?
It's always Luger. Luger's turned on Sting 100 times. It's got to be Luger.
It's got to be Luger, but he's already in the match. He's already beat up. Like, you can tell, he's done. Like, by the time, towards the end of that match, Luger is completely done. They're already telling another story with him and Macho accidentally hitting each other.
Yeah.
They already had that embedded, and I feel like they embedded that too much for us to try to heal, to try to change the fans' mindset on Luger. They were already trying to hint that Luger was the third man when he really wasn't.
Yes.
So you have to sit here and think about other people. So you have to sit here and think about who else could it be. And no one probably thought it was Hogan.
No, I had no idea at that point watching the match. It could have been anybody. It could have
been Flair.
No.
It could have been. Why couldn't it have been Flair?
Because Flair's a NWA, WCW guy. It wouldn't have made sense. Even at 11, I was like, hey, it's going to be a WWE guy. Maybe Shawn Michaels?
Oh, that's a good point. Shawn Michaels was just out for pills and all that stuff in WWF. You hadn't seen him on WWF in a minute. So you were sitting there maybe wondering. You know what I mean? This is before the internet, when everyone knew everyone's story and everyone knew everyone's contract and everyone knew who Dave Meltzer is. I'm pretty sure in the 90s I had no idea about the dirt sheets and Dave Meltzer until the internet became a thing and I started hearing about all these dirt sheets. But obviously there's always going to be leaks too. But apparently they kept this pretty under wraps.
I from what I understand, Hogan wasn't sure at first that Kevin Sullivan came to him, and Kevin's like, Hogan, you want to make some real motherfucking money. And then they go out and
you know, and it's funny though when you hear Hogan talk about it. Hogan talks about it as if I saw the dollar signs, and this train wasn't leaving without Hulk Hogan. But if I was going to do this, brother, I had to change from Hulk Hogan to Hollywood Hogan. Yeah. So now in '96, what does WWE got?
They got. Had they done Brett and Austin yet?
No.
That was around the corner.
No, was that 96?
It's around the corner. It's close.
No, that was before. It had to have been before 96. Wasn't that WrestleMania 13? Because Diesel's still in the company. Kevin Nash is still in the company. Kevin Nash fought Undertaker at WrestleMania 13.
So.
Or was it WrestleMania 12?
Well, regardless, you've got a couple things going on at that time period. You've got the ascent of Steve Austin starting in 1996. WWE had actually added some guys around that time that would be really nice players, like Ron Simmons, even though he had a stupid gimmick as Farouk Assad. They got it together, and that really, really worked. They had Dustin Rhodes, with the gold dust gimmick, which they did all kinds of that androgynous stuff and all that. There was some good heat going on there, but overall, the company doesn't have a lot going for it in 1996. You've got Rocky Maivia. He's coming around.
No
It's
one
not
cared
The
about
Rock
Rocky
yet.
Maivia. Yeah, no one cared about Rocky Maivia, though. Everyone cared about The Rock. The one time... All right, I just want to read this card off to you real fast.
Okay.
Let's read this card off for WrestleMania 12. Okay.
Oh, I'm excited.
So, the Body Donnas, Skip and Zip with Sonny, defeat the Godwins.
Oh, Sonny. Chris Candido and Sonny. Love you, girl.
The British Bulldog, Owen Hart and Vader with Jim Cornette. Jim, I need you to calm down a little bit on AEW, bud. Defeated Ahmed Johnson, Jake Roberts, and Yokozuna with Mr. Fuji.
Ugh.
Rowdy Piper defeated Goldust with Marlena in the infamous backyard Hollywood brawl match, or whatever that's called, with the O.J. Simpson car ride, which I'm not a fan of, but a lot of other people are. I know you are.
I love it.
Stone Cold Steve Austin with Ted DiBiase, who I'm pretty sure is actually still... he's not Stone Cold Steve Austin yet. He is still the
Ringmaster.
Ringmaster. Defeats Savio Vega. The Ultimate Warrior defeated Hunter S. Helmsley.
Oh, a total squash match,
Yeah.
by the way.
Total
Oh,
squash
terrible.
match. Ultimate Warrior is horrible. Get off my television. The Undertaker with Paul Bearer defeats Diesel. And then Shawn Michaels defeats Brett in the 60-man Iron Man match for the WWF Championship.
I've got a hot take on that main event.
I do too. Go ahead.
The match isn't that great, but the finish, just 12 out of 10.
The finish is 12 out of 10. And the reason why I say that is simply because when you watch it now as an adult, you can clearly see what everyone is talking about. And that's the simple fact of... That is the simple fact of Shawn looking at the title and whispering to Earl, telling him to get the hell out of the ring. When you hear Brett tell that story, talking about how he was in the middle of the ring and Shawn apparently told Earl to tell Brett to get out of the ring because he's stealing his moment. That you can clearly see when you watch it now today.
Yeah, you definitely can. But it's the boyhood dream coming true. It's Shawn coming out on the zip line. Man, it was great.
Yeah,
Really
okay.
good.
But
Great
it's
moment.
really good, and don't get me wrong, the match is really good, but is it a classic in the terms of quality? Because all we did was watch the same matches we've always watched for an hour long.
Sure. The match itself is not a 5-star match. The finish is a 5-star finish. I think that's pretty clear. You've got WrestleMania 13 pulled up here, and I do believe that's the Brett and Austin.
This is the
one.
Brett and Austin match where Kent Sherlock is the special guest referee.
Yes.
Before he's actually wrestling, he's still doing the UFC stuff, and this is when he's slowly coming into WWF.
Yeah.
And then you have the greatest, I think, next to Hogan and Rock, even though I think Hogan and Rock was just inevitably going to happen,
Sure.
you have one of the best double turns in wrestling history.
Oh, I
Because
totally
Austin is
agree.
clearly heel. Austin is clearly getting booed at the beginning of this match. And Brett is clearly coming out as your guy who's giving the glasses out. And he's not the Brett. This is 97, but he's not Bret Hart who's like, fuck the American fans.
Yeah.
Because this is before Survivor Series.
Yep.
Or SummerSlam? Where's the Montreal Screwjob?
I think it's SummerSlam.
Yes, okay, SummerSlam. So other than that, the only other thing I can think of between the 96 and we'll say 99, 98,
Mm-hmm.
96, 98 time era, you have the rise of Austin. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
You have the 60-minute Iron Man match.
Yep.
In WWF, that is. And then you have the Montreal Screwjob
Sure.
in 97.
Yep.
And I guess you can also throw in there the formation of DX in 97. Because obviously they're around because he was DX when they did the Screwjob. It was Shawn Michaels who's in DX versus Bret Hart.
Let's talk about DX for a second. I was not then, and I am not now a fan of that first iteration of the DX. I was an NWO guy through and through during that time period. What about you?
Oh, I was definitely watching WCW more than I was WWF at this time period. I will not sit here and deny that fact. Now, I really enjoyed 98, the night after WrestleMania, when you had, it feels to me like WWF has been playing soft the entire time during this, what everyone refers to, what is referred to as the Monday Night War.
Yeah.
WWF was playing soft, you know what I mean? And it's funny that the first person they go to and say, you can go out there and say whatever you want, little guy. All right, little bitch, you go out there and say whatever you want. And it's Sean Waltman. No disrespect, I've always enjoyed Sean Waltman. I thought back in the day he was that young skipper guy who was never meant to win but won, like when he beat Razor, even though it looks horrible and Razor could have clearly kicked out.
Yeah, that terrible moonsault.
Yeah, but your first actual jab at WCW really is with Sean Waltman coming out being like, hey, Eric Bischoff, if Kevin Nash and Scott Hall could, they'd be here with me too. We already know that's not true because every time they were getting ready to lose their contracts were getting ready to get up. Hell, WCW threw like another $500,000 at them when they thought they were going back to WWF when they fake Diesel and Razor got announced.
Yeah.
Because they actually thought it was going to be them. And they got more money. And they just let them do what they were going to do.
Of course they did.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure Scott Hall is probably the only reason why he's still like managing. Is probably one because of DDP. All praise DDP and his holy power to heal the Jake the Snake and Scott Hall. But also the simple fact of WCW money. Like he's still got to have some of that money that he was making. I know Nash probably still has some of that money.
I'm sure Nash does, but Nash never got as bad into the drugs and alcohol as Scott did. I mean, it's pretty clear.
I've watched tons of Nash interviews nowadays, since 2004 and on, when he wasn't really doing anything and he's just sitting there drinking the entire time.
I didn't say he didn't drink.
Okay, you just say he didn't get that bad in the drugs and alcohol.
He didn't get as bad as Scott. Scott's was in a friggin' wheelchair.
Okay. We're going off topic here.
Sure.
Well, Scott was in a wheelchair because he wasn't getting the medical help he needed.
He
but
did get it
besides
from
the
DDP,
point,
though.
he got it from DDP. He can now clearly do the diamond cutter without having to hold on to a chair.
Yeah.
So we got the NWO, but what else does WCW really have going on?
I'm
that?
going to be a total mark for the guys that I liked in the company during that time period. You got Diamond Dallas Page, you just brought up. Steven Regal, great work. I like Disco. I like Ming and the Barbarian. Disco's a good mid-card guy. I mean, you're not putting the strap on him or anything like that. He's filling spots. You get Raven and the Flock. They've got some good stuff going on in WCW in this mid to late 90s time period.
All right, so we said we're going up to 98 with this time era that we're talking about. So let's talk about it. Goldberg. He showed up in 98.
Yes.
He showed up in 98 as this guy. You have no idea who he is. He comes out and wins his first match. Whatever. First match. We all expected it.
Yeah.
And then he goes on this hot streak that magically grows by 20 every Monday night.
That's because it's kayfabe.
I know. And then you watch him and you see how he can't work. I believe it was William Regal.
Yeah,
who
Regal
had his real first. It was 98. Had his real first match with Goldberg. It wasn't just Goldberg coming in and squashing someone. And I'm happy to. Regal still lost the match, but Regal had to actually wrestle with the guy.
Yeah, Regal stretched him.
No, Regal didn't stretch him. Regal was trying to give him a match, and it just wasn't happening.
If Regal wanted to stretch him, he could.
If Regal wanted to, he clearly could, because Regal is underrated, baby. He's underrated.
Oh, great worker.
He is an excellent worker. He's an excellent mic piece. He's an excellent character. Look at what he's doing now on NXT as the GM.
Yeah, one of the few bright spots.
Yeah, one of the few bright spots. Well, NXT is probably the only watchable thing right now. And even that's slowly falling off because it's turned into a weekly USA show, and I'm not a big fan.
Yeah, that's being pretty generous to NXT. But back to Goldberg. Were you a Goldberg mark at the time? Or was it WCW starting to pass you by?
When Goldberg actually came out, I was more of an Austin mark. I was turning in every Monday night to see what Austin was going to do to Vince McMahon. And then you had The Rock slowly coming up, and you had the DX and the Nation feud going on. You had Owen Hart, and I honestly loved the tag team with Owen and Jeff during the 98, before Owen's tragic accident.
Yep.
And doing the blue meanie or the blue
blazer.
Blue blazer stuff, blue meanie. Blue blazer stuff.
We can talk about the blue meanie if you want.
No, I don't want to talk about the blue
I kind of
meanie.
figured you didn't.
But I was honestly more into WWF by the time 98 hit. And I was tuning into WCW. I lost my interest in the NWO when it became a whole full NFL quarterback team.
Yeah,
like, a
yeah.
whole full NFL team.
I
And you
agree.
had like 36 guys in the NWO. It's cool. You want to do like one-offs. Like they had that Asian dude from New Japan who was
Yeah.
technically an NWO guy. Who,
Yeah.
when he was in the States, he was walking the NWO shirt and stuff. And but when you started having just everybody in there, like I think when I think of the NWO, when I think of what the NWO should have been, it should have been this. It should have been Hogan, Nash, Hall, DiBiase, the Giant.
Mhm.
And then if I have to add some guys that got added in later on, Steiner works perfectly. I thought Scott was perfect. It
I
was
got
just-
my freaks out
Yeah.
there. And my
Uh,
freaks in here.
he definitely reinvented himself from the college wrestling guy with his
Mhm.
brother to this just steroid Magoo. I got all the freaks everywhere. Buff worked at his little like lackey, which
Yeah,
is all
yeah.
Buff was for a long time. Because Buff can wrestle, but Buff had no.
He
I
had
just wasn't a fan.
he had a great look, and that was about it.
Yeah.
You know, they did the totally buff thing with Luger, and they both had a great look, but that was about it.
All right, so we've talked about 92 to 94-ish. We've talked about 96 to 98-ish.
Mhm.
Let's talk about our journey now on why we stopped, started again, and slowly. I mean, I don't know about you, but there's like 3 different points where I stopped watching and then got back into it.
This is what I was really chomping at the bit to talk
Well,
about.
let's go.
When we started recording today, the beginning of the end for me was the Invasion storyline, and in particular, my favorite wrestler, DDP. You do the stalker angle. We don't know who it is. DDP comes out on the Raw. He takes the mask off, and the roof comes off of that building, the pop that DDP gets. And then he just gets smashed by Taker. Not just smashed by Taker, Taker's wife smashes him. And I'm mad about it now. And that's the beginning of the end for me. It's written for you that this is the biggest angle and the biggest draw you could have in wrestling, period. And Vince uses it to just crap on everybody that hadn't worked for him before. Look at Booker T. Look at DDP. Look at Steiner
look at Buff.
later. Look at Buff. Yeah, Buff got fired because his mom called in for him.
Okay, that's still undetermined by Buff.
That's
That's
the
shit we're
story.
hearing from Jim Ross and WWE, which Jim probably isn't lying because I don't think he has a lying bone in his body. But then you got, for me, where I stopped watching, it wasn't the Invasion, it was when the NWO came back.
A lethal dose of poison.
I watched WrestleMania 18, and when I watched WrestleMania 18, I was like, don't get me wrong, the Hogan Rock match is a classic, and you can't get past that. We talked about it earlier this week.
Yeah,
off
great.
mic.
Yeah.
You also have Austin versus Hall.
Yeah.
My whole problem with this is I guess it's not even I guess it's not even when the NWO came back. We can go back to the Invasion. To me, as a wrestler, as a guy in the business, I want to make something as good as it possibly can be.
Mm-hmm.
Why won't I just go to Vince and be like, look, I'm making this much from Jim Cornette, or I mean not Jim Cornette, but WCW.
Yeah.
Give me half of that, and I will cancel my contract and come to you.
They're not going to do that because they're getting mailbox money. Scott Steiner's getting paid to sit at home. Bill Goldberg's getting paid to sit at home. Kevin Nash is getting paid to sit at home. Is it the best for business? No. But that's what they're going to do instead of beat their bodies up. But if I'm Vince McMahon, I'm getting off my checkbook.
That's what I mean. Like, Vince at the time was a billionaire.
Yep.
He could have just gotten off his checkbook and be like, look, I need you guys for this Invasion angle to work. Because I think of it this way: when you look back at the Survivor Series to define when the Invasion was ending,
Yeah.
look at who was on the card.
What about Canyon?
What about Canyon?
I like Canyon.
I like Canyon too, but I was more of a Mortis guy, but more of the stuff.
terrible.
When you look at that card, you have the big players in WWE,
Mhm.
and you got Undertaker, Kane, Jericho, Rock, and Angle. And then you had Austin, Rhino, RVD, and the Dudleys, I think?
Yeah.
Or DDP and someone else? It wasn't Canyon. Canyon
no.
wasn't in the main event.
Yeah.
And it wasn't Booker either. That's another thing that kills me. You had all these guys, you had all these B-rated players, and then the A-rated players you treated like B-rated players. You had
Yes.
Booker, you had DDP, you had Actually, that's it. That's all I can think of. From
You had
WCW.
Flair, but Flair didn't.
Oh,
get
Flair didn't come in.
completely
No, but Flair didn't come in until like 2002. Remember?
Yeah.
After the invasion angle, and he's like, "We're partners, Vince." Woo! And
that was actually pretty good.
yeah, that was pretty good, but didn't make the invasion any better.
No.
So by that point, I was tuning in, but I wasn't invested.
No.
I was
no.
just kind of like catching highlights and then turning it off. I'm still not really invested till this day, except for, you know what I'm about to say here, AEW.
Yeah. Oh,
Because
yeah.
WWE's product is the same. It's just the same candy coated bullshit that we get. It took them 10 years almost to turn Roman heel with the crowd booing him since 2015. Can you disagree with that?
That's because Vince is an idiot.
In
I don't know what to
2015,
tell you.
2016, I think, is
Yeah.
since the Shield's been broken up.
Mhm.
And it took him that long to be like, man, the fans are booing him. Let's give him a reason to boo him. You know what I mean? Why not? It's not Cena where you got half the fans being like, go Cena, go. And then the other half being like, Cena can't wrestle. No, it is hands down, across the board, fuck this Samoan guy.
Yeah.
We don't like him. So what about, when did you come back into it?
Well, I left and I would come back for a cup of coffee and leave again. So I left around that 2002 area. I stopped watching altogether. Then I heard about ECW One Night Stand, and I tuned in. And it was everything I thought it would be and more. Mike Awesome and Masada Tanaka beating each other up for real for my entertainment, and I loved it. And then they made WWE CW, and I stopped watching again because that was some terrible product.
The zombie guy.
Yeah, I mean, at least Sandman came and beat him up with a Singapore cane, but that was not a good start to WWE CW.
Well, no, because WWE doesn't know how to create. If Vince didn't create it, he don't care about it.
Absolutely.
He does not care about it. So, like, when you look at these, like, I'm surprised the War Game matches go on so well on NXT, but probably the only reason why they do is because they're on NXT. Because Vince would have done some hokey-ass gimmick to it. Actually, they already did. They added the cage where they stand in the cage and then get released to come out instead of just having them in the back and have them come out like they used to do in WCW.
Yeah.
No, they got to stand in a freaking cage.
So when did you come back?
When did I come back?
Yeah, come back to stay came back. I
Come
talked
back to
about
stay,
it.
come back.
Mhm.
I came back to stay when the network came back and I started watching old wrestling again. I started paying attention to the newer stuff when me and you started watching the Manias every year. Is when I started paying attention again.
And that's WrestleMania 30.
That
with
was
Daniel
WrestleMania
Bryan.
30 with Daniel Bryan's story, and when we got to watch the Cena apocalypse happen to my favorite wrestler, Bray Wyatt. Because I went back after watching that Mania match. I went back and started watching the other pay-per-views. God rest his soul, John Hubbard, Luke Harper,
Brody Lee.
Brody
whatever.
Lee, the great one, or what is he called?
The
The exalted one.
Yes.
He was great.
Mm-hmm.
When you watch those matches with Bray Wyatt and the Wyatt family against the Shield,
Oh, great.
and one of my favorite matches is that Elimination Chamber match. And when I say Elimination Chamber match, I don't mean they were in an Elimination Chamber.
Yeah.
But the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view or whatever, because now, every pay-per-view has to be the gimmick match title, which doesn't make sense to me. Hell in a Cell. And you only have one Hell in a Cell match. Why are we calling the pay-per-view Hell in a Cell?
Our Extreme Rules, and you have a stairs match. What are you doing?
Yeah. Like every match is an Extreme Rules match. Oh, by the way, they can only use one thing.
Yeah.
But no, the 30 one. The 30 was when I came back and I started watching. I may have not watched every week, but me and you watched every WrestleMania from there. I mean,
Yes.
we even had our lady friends sit there and watch it with us, and we forced them to watch like the 5-hour long Sting one. I think it was Sting.
Yeah,
When
yeah,
Sting fought
Sting.
Triple H. And that one doesn't make any sense to me. Again, WWE's booking doesn't make any sense. You turn everything into WCW versus WWE. Why couldn't it have just been Sting versus Triple H? Give me these two guys that have never been in the ring together before. Maybe if you look in the archives, maybe you can find a squash match where Sting beat a young Triple H or young Hunter Hearst Helmsley.
Probably not.
But WCW never really did that.
No.
You know what I mean? So you would have to. Why do we have to turn this into WCW versus them, like us versus them, for this match? Just give me a great match. Sting at that age could still work, and then Seth killed him.
Yeah, and if you look at Sting with his work on TNA Impact, whatever you want to call it,
He did a lot of pretty good matches. His feud with, it was Mr. Kennedy, it's Mr. Anderson in TNA. That's one of my all-time favorite modern feuds.
Yeah, well, you had Kennedy coming out, or Anderson, whichever you want to call him, the blonde guy.
Yeah.
Coming out dressed as Surfer Sting.
Oh, I love it.
And I have to talk about this because it seems like, and I know it's already been talked about before in other podcasts, but it seems like everyone loved doing that, by the way. Everyone loved to dress up as Sting. And if they got to dress up as Sting, it was Surfer Sting. Think about it. Jeff Jarrett did it like twice.
Yeah.
And then Anderson did it like, he fought him dressed as Surfer Sting at the pay-per-view.
And it was the best.
Yeah, it was perfect. But no, so like for me, wrestling has always been an ups and down.
Mm-hmm.
Ups and down. Ups and down. And don't get me wrong, that's, you can sit here and see that. We can sit here and go back to all the times we talked about. You know what I mean? Like after 92, 93 and on, to like 96, 97-ish, the rise of Austin and The Rock and Mankind and all these guys, the Attitude Era, we'll say, it was a rocky road.
Yeah.
And then you have like when they're on their high horse from like 97 to the Invasion. And then after the Invasion, it kind of gets dull.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have, I did pay attention when Evolution showed up. Because I was like, this is WWE being smart, making their own Four Horsemen with Flair in it.
Yeah.
And it makes sense because you got Triple H, who's the well-known guy, who is burying everyone, who's now in a stable where it makes sense he's burying everyone.
Yeah.
Even though he buried Booker T at Mania, still not a fan of that.
Yeah, don't get me started on that.
So you got those types of, I guess you could say, events. Like I paid attention to the Legend Killer Randy Orton, but after he was off the TV, I turned it off.
Mm-hmm.
I paid attention to Cena when he was Thugonomics because I thought he was different.
Sure.
I paid attention to when they gave the belt to RVD and then RVD decided to get high in a car with Sabu. So he screwed it up himself.
What did we think was going to happen? I mean, I love RVD, but you got to know what you're getting into with this guy, Vince. Come on.
So where are we at now? Where are you at now?
Where am I at now? Well, I was almost entirely away from wrestling, and then AEW happened.
Would it be AEW or was it the indie show, the super indie show that I like to call it, as All In, that the Young Bucks and Cody put together with ROH and New Japan, all these guys coming together? Is that where you got your spark back? 'Cause that's where I got my spark back.
I didn't watch that pay-per-view. I heard about it and I was interested, and then later on, when it's announced that there's going to be a new company, then I get super excited, and we see guys like MJF come out and cut a promo on Conrad Thompson. We see that they signed Jericho. They get the Young Bucks. All kinds of great stuff. I was super excited, and I'm still super excited now, which I'm sure we've got plenty of AEW to talk about moving forward.
Sitting here talking about where I'm at right now is the simple fact that the reason why I say AEW is the company I follow is simply because their storylines make sense. You know MJF is turning on Cody.
Yeah.
You know that eventually is happening.
Yes.
And the thing about it is you have to be dumb not to know it's not going to happen because MJF is still acting heelish being Cody's best friend. He's still doing heelish things. He's still talking heelish. He's still doing the heelish promos, all that stuff. And then you got the Kenny Omega story, which is probably the best storyline of the year, where he's losing, gets in a tag team with one of his best friends, Hangman Page, wins for a little bit, loses again, then says, I'm going to go on the solo track and I'm going to get my career back in order.
And this is over a year,
yes,
mind you.
This is a year-long build of him losing and winning every so often, you know what I mean? But mostly losing this year.
As a singles, yes.
Yes, and we can sit here and talk and be like, well, it's AEW being smart. It's them being like, well, we're not going to put the belt directly on Kenny Omega because, one, everyone knows he's a VP. 2, he's Kenny Omega. 3, we have other people we can have fight for the belt. 4, we have this hot commodity known as Dean Ambrose, a.k.a. Jon Moxley, that we just received.
Yeah.
We have Chris Jericho.
Yep.
We have Hangman Page. We have all these singles guys that could have won the belt. Like, I didn't think, when Cody and Jericho happened, I didn't think Cody needed the belt then.
No.
Now, do I think they needed to put the stipulation in there that, like, I will never fight for the title again? No. So, somehow we'll get around that, because at one point or another, Cody's going to be champion.
Gotta be.
Yeah, you got to put the belt on Cody. Unless he cares that much just about the product in the background. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's it. But the Omega storyline they're telling right now, and let's talk about it for a couple seconds.
Sure.
Let's talk about AEW
Mm-hmm.
and Impact Wrestling. What do you think's going on?
I think that Tony Khan has either already bought Impact or is going to buy Impact. And that's where the second AEW show is going to come from.
Do you get rid of some of the guys that are on Impact right now after you fully reveal that you've already paid for the company and everything else?
Absolutely. Impact has got a lot of dead weight. But there's some good players there. You got the Motor City Machine Guns. You've got Sammy Callahan. There's some pieces there. Tessa Blanchard is kind of up in the air, but that's a name I'd love to see in the AEW women's division.
I haven't watched it yet, but it just dropped. She does an interview. That was yesterday. It dropped, and I saw it. I haven't watched it yet. Her first shoot interview since all this backstage drama happened and her getting released from Impact and all that as the champion or something like that.
Yeah, apparently she's an asshole.
Yeah, apparently she's a big old cunt, but not my words.
Yeah,
I particularly love her. I think she's great.
I like Jordan Grace too.
I think she would do great things with someone like Charlotte or Becky or even the hugging girl who's no longer the hugging girl, Bailey. I think she would do great things with all those girls that can or women that can wrestle. Because nowadays, the actual women division is actually a thing, and it's no longer just
yeah, it's actually pretty good.
Yeah. So, where do you see yourself with the wrestling industry right now?
I see myself as a fan of AEW. I know that they're rough around the edges. I think they've got a lot of potential. They've got Kenny Omega that you brought up. They've got Darby Allin. They've got Jungle Boy. I love the Jurassic Express. That's a great tag team as long as you get Marco Stunt off of my television. The Dark Order is a hot commodity. They're entertaining. You got Hangman Page. They got a lot of good stuff going on. They just get a little too indie for their own good, and they need to back that down a little bit.
I will definitely agree. I just got done rewatching All Out from last year, or maybe it was 2 years ago. No, it was last year.
Yeah.
With the Lucha Bros and Young Bucks doing the ladder match.
Oh, a Canadian Destroyer off the ladder?
It doesn't make sense. And a lot of the things they did in that match don't make sense. There's a lot of things that are going on that don't make sense in the terms of the rules. Like Jericho and Hangman, there's a lot of cheating going on that nothing gets thrown out. Like, there will be a champion. I will say that beforehand. Say that it's a no disqualification match beforehand, and don't just throw it on us at the very beginning.
The rules, Steve.
Yeah. Copyrighted trademark by OSW, by the way.
We love you guys.
Yeah, we love you guys. But no, let's. I just want to talk about one more thing, and that's the fact of Jericho. Do you agree with AEW making him their first champion?
Yes.
Why?
Because he's the name, he's the star power, and it brought automatic gravity to that belt. It was the right move on the right guy, and taking it off of him and putting it on Moxley was the right move at the right time. And we can talk about Jericho's booking after that, but that's a separate discussion. His booking as champion, spot on.
Yes. His booking as a heel champion, spot on. His booking as a heel champion in a faction, spot on. Because even when you sit there and watch some of his matches, a lot of his matches, he's not getting help. Like, they're out inside of the ring and they're sitting there being goons or whatever, but they're not deliberately cheating for Jericho. Jericho has put on matches and just come out on top. You watch this Hangman match against Jericho for the title. Jericho is in there by himself. There's no inner circle yet. He is just in there saying, if I don't win this, my career's over. I'm going to win this. I'm going to prove it. A little bit of the bubbly, baby. Like, it's perfect. He does a great job. And you can't sit here and say that Jericho isn't one of the best in the business to ever be around. Because he has reinvented himself how many times?
Oh, a bunch. In another great Jericho match is the match with Cody where MJF throws in the towel. That match, cover to cover, tremendous. And the work is tremendous. The work is so good that you're able to suspend your disbelief when MJF turns on Cody, that you're still like, no, even though we all knew it was going to happen. Well, Steve, we're coming up on our hour. I think it's about time to close
I think it's about time to close it out. Ladies and gentlemen, there's your boy Diamond Steve with the Josh Hardbody, the 16-time MCC champion of Shit Talk World Renown.
That's right, baby. I'm the hardest body in the world in wrestling and in entertainment. And what's hotter than diamond?
Nothing, baby.
That's right.
You guys have an excellent week. We will see you guys next week. Again, this is the Two Average Bros podcast. We hope you enjoyed. And if you like, comment, and subscribe, I guess is what the kids say on this channel.
Hit the bell button for
And
notifications.
we'll see you guys later. Deuces.